Hey, Yetta, do we have great home insurance?
Not sure. Maybe we should call our broker.
Moving forward with the Decker team. Moving forward together with the Decker team.
So we're thrilled that we've created for you free access to over 603 Life's Inside Track episodes, where we share insider tips, making house home, how to get the most out of your space. And the great news is they're available from home, from the office, or on the go, especially when you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Then you'll get them even sooner, right?
And that's right.
And so what we're going to explore is some ins and outs of home insurance, home property insurance. And really, what insurance things or what things do I need within my insurance?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we're not insurance brokers. But we've lived a little bit of time in this life, and we've evaluated experience. Like our previous show talked about saging. When it comes to insurance, we've saged a little bit because we've learned from experience. And one of the things that we've learned is that not all insurance policies are created equal.
Right. And the best insurance policy may actually be a more expensive policy, which kind of makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And yet it may also have a higher deductible. I mean, in our younger years, we used to think it needed a teeny deductible because that would make it a better insurance, right?
Right.
Or so we thought.
Mm-hmm.
But really, one of our words of caution is you're not likely going to use the insurance unless it's a significant claim.
Well, that's our recommendation because, one claim you'll get some leniency on. Second claim, your insurance rates are going up. And so let's talk about that. Like, so if I have a small accident, I spill some paint on the floor or the carpet, I'm going to change the carpet myself. In the past, people would have called the insurance company and had them change the carpet because I spilled paint on it. Well, you can do that when you have a small deductible, but we prefer to have a large deductible because you get a lower premium.
Right, and still with a better...
And still have a great insurance package.
Right, because that's only one element of an insurance package is what is the deductible. And yes, it means if you have a significant claim or reason to have a claim, you're going to claim it. And yes, you have to come up with, say, $3,000 or whatever you've chosen to make your deductible, $3,000, $5,000. So you do have to come up with that up front before they start to cover anything. So it's an expensive proposition, but over the long term, it will mean that you're paying less insurance premiums on an ongoing year in, year out basis.
Yeah, and like I like to say is if you wouldn't claim a $3,000 item, then get $3,000 deductible because you're going to pay it anyways. Right.
That's one way of thinking.
That's one way.
And then someone else may say, well, yeah, but if it's a large claim, let's say it's a $70,000 claim or whatever, $200,000 claim or a complete rebuild, I wouldn't want to have to pay first $3,000. I would only want to pay my $500. So you have to do an assessment of what the extra cost is. You don't have to claim it just because your deductible is not as high.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
so you get to decide. Yeah. Ultimately, you just want to know your numbers. Right? Go in with wisdom.
Yeah. And then the other thing to understand about insurance is that if, let's say your house you think it's worth $600 because you paid $600 for it. But it would cost $1 million to rebuild it. Right,
because rebuild cost is generally speaking always going to be higher than the purchase price.
Right. So let's say it's $1 million and you've got insurance for $600 because, a lot of times through COVID and that rebuild costs went through the roof, right? And not everybody adjusted their insurance.
Right.
So now if you have... Let's say you have insurance of $600, but your house is valued at $1 million to rebuild, and you have a $100,000 loss. The insurance company is going to say, no, you're covered for 60% because you only covered 60% of the value of your
you're
house.
Only
600
insured,
on $1 million.
Right, you're only insured for 60% of the value of rebuild of your home.
So although you have $600,000 insurance, and you have a $100,000 claim, we're only going to give you $60,000 because you underinsured your property.
Right. And so you want to be sure, like if you haven't talked to your insurance broker or your insurance provider for in the last year, I'm going to say, you like want to schedule this as a call to make like today, tomorrow, so that you know exactly what kind of property insurance you have, what the deductible is, what the liability is.
And sometimes they'll do an inspection, which is not a bad thing. Right. And we had them in a couple years back. They did an inspection. They told us we had to move a few things away from furnaces and stuff. They also told us we had to change our hot water tanks because they were at the end of their useful life cycle, because they didn't want them to split and cause a flood in the basement. And then they also looked at what the value of our house would be to rebuild it, because they're looking at fit and finish and all that kind of stuff. So that's a good thing. It may cost you a little bit more, but at least you know you're now insured for the right amount. The other thing I recommend, and we haven't done this in a long time, is just take your phone and walk around the house in video and videotape your entire house, inside and out, closets, cupboards, everything, so that what you've got now then is an inventory of everything. If you have a total loss, if your house burns down, you can say, no, I had 8 suits. Here's the video footage. There's my 8 suits. You need to replace those 8 suits, right?
Yeah.
And that's a little tip.
Yeah, it's a little bit easier than what we used to do before the days of easy digital and easy, like we literally would write itemized lists, try and keep all our receipts, and like just more arduous than it is necessary today. So just make sure you don't keep that video. Well, now we store everything in the cloud anyway, most of us.
Yeah, the video
so
stored.
It's not going to be just on site and get burned up.
No.
Or it's lost in water
in
damage
clouds.
Or whatever.
And there always seems to be clouds. Speaking of clouds, rain. A lot of policies do not cover overland flooding. Right? And we had that torrential downpour about a month or so ago. And a lot of houses flooded. Now, you can have water escape clause, which means if, let's say, your sewer backed up and that came in your house, that would be water escape. That would be covered as long as you have a water escape clause.
Right. And another example would be a sump pump failure. Another example would be a dishwasher valve stuck open, because we know something about that.
Yeah, we did that one.
About 20 years ago, and it was a $60,000 claim, or 65, I think, just from the dishwasher valve staying open for an evening. It could also be for a washing machine.
Put those hoses on that have the wire casing around them, because what happens is as that rubber gets older, it can bulge, and you always have pressure on that hose. And so you could be away for the day at work or on vacation, and that hose pops. Now you're going to fill your house with water until you come home and notice it. Right.
And water is incredibly insidiously damaging inside a home, because it
goes everywhere.
It goes everywhere, right? When you get a little tiny puddle, it wicks up the drywall, and it looks like you had a foot deep flood, but it was really a quarter of an inch on the floor. It just wicked up. So just make sure you know what's in your policy. Water escape is something we talked about. Overland flood is something we talked about. Overland flooding. Just look at your liability, how much you are covered for.
Make sure it's enough, because physical damage to a person is a very expensive liability. So in retrospect, the thing is, your cheapest policy is not necessarily your best policy. So together we're clarifying your options so that your wisdom will flow.
Moving forward with the